Okay. So today we are going to discuss more about variational principal methods again, and because this part is again left over, and we may need two more sessions on this particular part of APM. So today we are going to concentrate on one part, that is what in a Rayleigh-Ritz method, and we are very small introduction. We are going to give it for a weak formulation. What does that weak formulation means? So we'll just look at what does that variational method means. Variational methods means it is taking care of variations, and those variations may be a displacement with respect to x and kind of things. So that is what it is called as a typical field variable. That if you are going to do a thermal analysis, temperature is your field variable. If you are going to do a mechanical or structural analysis, uh, your field variable becomes an displacement. So here, this is what in a Rayleigh-Ritz method. In Rayleigh-Ritz method, what is happens in previous we have seen, we started with a differential equation, we assumed a displacement field, and then we are satisfying the boundary conditions, then using a weak formulation. In weak formulation, we need to assume a weight function, and then we used to means determine a solution for it. And in that we have seen in a Galerkin's method and point collocation method, subdomain method, and least square method. So this is somewhat different method than this what our previous discussed. We are again using an here weak formulae, what are weighted residual statement itself. But we are starting with an relay. That is we are starting with a displacement field, field variable. And that is what it is to be chosen over the entire component, you can say, or entire domain. And this displacement field is, and mostly it should be in a polynomial function. And in this polynomial, we are starting with an assumption that u is nothing but a0 plus x plus a2x square something. So these are the constants we have determined previously by using an boundary conditions, then differential equations, satisfaction of these two, we have determined this. The same thing we are going to do it. And here, what we are doing, we are taking care of minimum potential of the system. Minimum potential means going to determine how much amount of energy is there, and that energy you are going to determine, and we are determining based on that. For stability purpose, this potential energy or total energy of the system remains constant. If I take a derivative of it, obviously it should constant derivative is a zero. So that is what we can take on a derivative with respect to the coefficients. Once we formulated the equation for potential energy, minimizing it means taking on a derivative with respect to the coefficients and determining the approximate solution for this. So we'll start with a simple example. So in this example, we are taking in a simple bar. Point load is applied at the middle. Left point is 1, 2, 3. You can just look at it. Point that is the length of this entire rod is L. Area is something, that is what. And ultimately, you need to determine a displacement at node number 2. That is what basically intention for this. So when we are going to do this, so first there are two ways by which we can determine. So we'll first of all look at what is the method one says so. So in this method one, we need to determine a total potential of the energy. Potential energy of the system. Potential energy in this case is whatever the potential energy due to strain in due to strain, that is one energy. Another one is energy, so that is externally applied load. This total energy is nothing but the sum of this. Sum means algebraic sum. So it is a minus applied energy. So applied energy is P, and we can assume the displacement is U1 here. And potential energy is nothing but whatever the strain energy is stored into this. Strain energy is determined by a simple half K square. U is nothing but a displacement. But here we are assuming we are taking an integral because we are assuming the what are the variation of the displacement from this point to this point is changing. That's what we are taking an integral of it. And we are formulating this equation. So that is what an EA, this comes all under the stiffness equation, that is the EA by L becomes my stiffness equations, and here I am taking a displacement out here. That's what it is. That is strain square. That is what we have doing it here. So once we got this, now start with an assumption of the polynomial, which it is in initial previous slide we have seen. We have to start with a certain polynomial. We'll start with a polynomial assumption that is a second order polynomial, a1 plus a2x plus a3x square. Then next step is to satisfy this polynomial. This polynomial should satisfy both boundary conditions on left side as well as right side. Left side, that is what, point 1. At point 1 the displacement is 0. At point 3 displacement is 0. So those we can substitute into this, and we'll get in a two constant values. One is I got in a, once I put this u is equal to 0, x is equal to 0 into this, I'll get in a u1 is equal to 0, a1 is equal to 0. The similarly, I can substitute displacement is 0 at x is equal to L. So I got in a, another constant a2 is equal to minus a3L. This is what in a way we got in a two constants here. Only the constant we currently we don't know, that is a3. That is what it is to be again satisfied within a differential equation, and that is done by a simple case. First of all, we need to determine a displacement of u1. U1 is a displacement of point load. This, that is what in a u1, and that can be determined by substituting this at x equal to L. And this displacement is determined by substituting x is equal to L into this polynomial, because this is what on a polynomial we assumed it. Okay, so we can determine u1 is equal to a2 into this all. You can substitute into this. You got u1 is equal to a3 L square by 4, and this part is to be submitted or substituted at this location. That is what we are going to do it. So that's what, therefore, our equation becomes, this equation will be converted into this. Du by dx, directly you can take in a second derivative of it. That second derivative is nothing but a1 becomes 0, a2 plus 2, a3 x, and then bracket square or something, and you can substitute into this. Then after integrating over the entire length, we'll get the equation, finally equation in this fashion. That is half of EA E3 square L raised to 6 divided by 6 and all this. So this minus is, this is what on a minus energy, because we are going to apply externally, and that energy is going to convert into potential energy of this. This is what on a potential energy it is stored in the bar. Now take up on that particular equation which we formulated for this pi. Pi is nothing but a total potential energy of my system, and that pi contains A3 as a one constant. And we want to determine this pi should be derivative of this pi, that is what, and a derivative of this pi with respect to A3 should be equal to 0. So reason for this, because we want to minimize that. Minimization with respect to your constant, because your energy, if you plot this pi versus A3, so that energy may be varying in this fashion, and I want to determine this point, and that's what we are going to determine a derivative of it. And that is the way you can take a derivative of it and We can quite easily determine A3 is equal to this much parameter, this much value. So now we got an A1, A2, A3. You can directly substitute into your equation and you will get an equation U2 is equal to displacement at point 2 gives to 3 by 4 PL by 4A. So whatever this 3 by 4 indicates a factor, we got it because of our assumption. And this is not a perfect result we got it. Exact solution is U2 is equal to PL by 4A. And here we got a 3 by 4 factor. That is because of the approximation purpose. So this is what an approximation we got it. And this can be further reduced or get more accurate results by applying this polynomial in multiple pieces. That is what it is called as a piecewise interpolation. We can use it and we can get a more constants and we can get the appropriate solution for this. This is one way by which we can determine it. Do you have any question? Anyone? Okay. Stress in the bar you can determine by simply E into strain. So strain we know it. We know this A2, A3. We can substitute into all this and we'll get a stress value to be this much. So this stress can be, and we can determine at two different locations at x equal to L and also x equal to 0. And both the way you can, here we can get at x equal to L, obviously this bar is applied at this point, this is under tension and this is under compression. So obviously here the stress during this at this point is compressive stress. Here it is a tensile stress. This quite easily you can get it, and that is what our solution is not exact, but it is approximately perfect enough. Means it is reflecting whatever the real situation. And so that is what this quadratic equation we assume. Due to this assumption of quadratic system, displacement field over the system, stress is found to be vary along with the bar. And however, the stress is expected to be on a constant, tensile from 1 to 2 and compressive from 2 to 3. And that is what we have observed by using these two equations. This is positive stress value, this is negative stress value. So this shows compression, this shows an tension. And this solution is not exact because there is a exact solution somewhere this, but we got in a 3.3 by 4. The reason for this is approximate solution we got it. So how can we avoid the means how can we get a more accurate solution is another example. Here the same example is extended further. Instead of considering this complete bar, we are now assuming there are two springs. One is K1 here and then K2 here. Now I can quite easily model this, and that is what we can do. That is what in a second method. So this is what it will give a better accuracy because we assume in a spring and we don't assume in a in between variation in the spring, and that is what we can get in a K, that is a displacement divided by whatever the force upon displacement gives me a stiffness of that particular spring, and that is can be determined by sigma a. This is what on the force you are going to apply. Epsilon L by 2 is nothing but my displacement, and here we got a stiffness of that particular spring, that is half of this because we got a length is half of it. So similarly, now I can have two springs. One is K1 here having the same stiffness and K2 having the same stiffness. Now total potential energy, already I told that total potential energy is half of K into U square. This is what basically formula for potential energy. And now I can determine that particular uh, strain energy stored in the first spring, strain energy stored in the second spring, and minus externally applied force. Here we have applied the force into this. That is what on a P. And displacement we assume here is to be U2. So now directly I can put it minus P into U2. So total comes to be a capital K into this. This is K1, K2. We can add up. We can get on a 2 times and will reduce to the K into U2. u3 square, u2 cube, u3 square, it should be square, by mistake it was happened. So then for an equilibrium, what is to be done? This dabba pi with respect to u2 should be 0. So that way we can go on determining it. And then we got an u2 value to be another this. This way we can find the displacement. And this is also the way by which we can solve the problems by Rayleigh-Ritz method kind of things. And here we got a result more accurate than the previous case. This is what an exact result, it is exact value. And we here we got an approximate by using this potential energy technique. So here stress in the beam is given by, obviously we can determine the stress, E into epsilon will give me a stress, and this is also perfectly okay that stress is also determined with this value. So if you look into this for previous method, we are doing so much of integration, so many things, and but we are not getting better accuracy. So instead of that, they taking a derivative with respect to constants. Instead of that, we if you take a derivative with respect to u, we'll get a better results. That is what we can observe it here. And here displacement at point 2 by Rayleigh-Ritz method differs by 3 by 4 factor, and while maximum stress in the beam differs by 3 by 2 factor 1.5 or something. And stress obtained by this approximate method are on the conservative side, means it is somewhat not much more accurate, but it is near to the exact something. And the exact solution is obtained by piecewise, means we have divided that part into two parts. One is K1 we assume, then K2 we assume, and we solved it. So this is what you can observe it. This is what dotted line you can observe it. That dotted line shows in a behavior of Rayleigh-Ritz method over the domain. The displacement field will vary in this fashion. But exact solution is nothing but on a straight line because we have only one application of the force. This is shows on a displacement variation. But in case of a relayed rates method, you can observe. So there is a this is going to happen because of our assumption. How can we get in a better assumption? Because this case is in a very simple. When we come up with a more complicated case, you can't get an exact solution at all. In that case, we need to now rely on this relayed rates method. So that's what for verification purpose, we need to just all the time compare with the results we know it, and then we need to move further. Then this relay grids method, variation in the stress you can observe linear, but in exact it is not linear, but it is stepped kind of thing. So we'll now look at one more example on similar case scale. So that is so here the example is that stepped. It is a nothing but a bar having a variation in the cross section. Here the area of cross section is A1. Here it is the area of cross section is A2. If I take any of the area in between this, I can assume area X. So that is what possible by A1 minus A1 plus A2 divided by 2 into x something. So that way we can determine, and that is what an approximate area you can determine. That is what it is done, x upon L something. So here we need to determine the displacement at point 2, that is node number 2, and subjected to the axial force P. And here we can have an A1 is a jump plus A2 minus A1 uh, x upon L. And that way we can go on determining this. Here you can see here it is A2 is lesser. That's what this term will become minus, and this area will go on decreasing. Don't worry about it. That will, you know, perfect result you can get it. So we'll start with an assumption of polynomial that is a1 plus a2x, and that polynomial we need to satisfy the boundary condition. First boundary condition is on left side, my displacement is 0. So now I can substitute, I will get an a1 value. Okay. Then next is now we have to determine A2, and we got in a displacement equation u is equal to A2 into x du by dx A2, and we got in a u2 is equal to A2 L at displacement at x equal to L something. Okay. Now we need to determine potential of the problem. Potential means again come back to that relation. Here previously we assumed this A is a constant, but now here area is varying from x equal to 0 to x equal to L. That's what we need to take an A is now function of x. Okay, this is what a somewhat complexity we included into this. So now you can substitute the same thing into this. So now I can, AX is taken here and substituted at this location. Now A1 plus this equation we got. And du by dx, we can get it directly from here, which is nothing but an A2 directly, we will get it into this. So we can square it, we can integrate it. And so that integration is over 0 to L, we can integrate and we got this final equation. And after simplification of this, what you can do it, we will get this part. This shows a potential of your entire problem. Okay, and that part, in potential we don't know this A2 as a constant, we need to determine it. If I take a derivative of this potential with respect to A2, and if I equate it to 0, this is called as a minimization of the potential, and that will result into value of the A2. We'll just look at how it result into this. So here we got on a potential, that is a stable equilibrium, and for stable equilibrium, this potential should be 0. Now we got an A2 value, and that A2 value you can finally substitute into your equation. We got an displacement at node number 2 by this relation. Okay, and also we can determine the stresses. Also, you can now substitute the numbers into this. Previous cases, we never substituted any numbers, and that's what you may feel these are the not numericals. These are the derivations, and this is also kind of a numericals. Here, specific data we can substitute. A1 is assumed to be a 40, A2 is assumed to be a 20, then length is 200. We can determine the stress value, that is external force we are not putting, but we are assuming P as an external force. We got an displacement is 6.6 into P by E, and stresses we can get in a 0.033 P. So this is one case by which we can solve it. Now we'll look at another case. So we are choosing displacement field in first order polynomial gives in a constant strain and first derivative, hence the constant stress. Since the taper bar is expected to have a variable stress, see here the we are assuming this per taper bar is varying with respect to this area is varying with respect to x. Okay, so obviously the area, the stress at this location and this location will be different, because here the stress area may be A1, here it's A2. The amount of force is fixed, so I will get an P divided by A1 as an A stress at this location, P divided by A2 as an stress at this location, like this. But so as we are assuming a displacement field as in a first order equation polynomial, and obviously the stress you can observe it is in a constant stress. Okay, so to avoid this, if you look at into higher order polynomial, we want to go for a variable stress, it is implemented that displacement should be expressed by a second order polynomial, and therefore the solution is further modified now. This solution is further modified like this. Now we'll assume a second order polynomial a1 plus a2x plus a3x square. Previously we assumed on only one first order polynomial. Now you can determine one constant here a1. Similarly, we can have an u is equal to this much. Displacement field of this strain field is also varying with respect to this. So, as my previous case, you might have remembered u is equal to a1 plus a2 x, this was this. Then we have taken a du by dx, so we got an a2, and this is what constant, and that is what it is called as a constant strain field. So it is the first derivative. If I'm taking a displacement field as a first order equation, taking on a derivative means it is resulting in a constant which is equal to coefficient of that x, and that constant strain it is going to show it, which we don't want it. Reason for that, stress is going to vary over the region or domain. That's what we are going for in the second order. Here in this case, you can observe here the stress, what are the displacement or strain field is varying with respect to x. Here displacement is in quadratic equation like this. Now you can substitute at x equal to L, and we can determine a potential of the problem finally. Because here we are, this U2 is at x equal to L. That is what we need to substitute, and we'll get a displacement at point 2, that is U2 is equal to V. So this displacement is to be substituted or substituted into this equation, potential equation, and rest of the parameters we can again substitute and process further. I think this is what on a polynomial, this potential we got it. We can now integrate over this, and now after this is what a total potential we got after. For stable equilibrium, this A2 and A3 is to be determined. So obviously this will be resulting into one equation, that is one equation we will get. Similarly, I can A3 will result into second equation, and we'll get in a two constants specific, that is A3 and A2. And now we have the same values of area, even A2, this is A2, and then L is 200 mm, and then you can substitute into displacement field. We'll got displacement field to be in this one. In previous case, we got in a displacement that is a 6.66 some P divided by E. Here we got in a 6.52, somewhere more accurate because we have started with a second order polynomial. Then stress also we are determined at 2 points. One is on left side, that is what in a minimum. Right side also we have determined it. Similar fashion, I can now assume I will not go for a two polynomials. A polynomial with a three constant, but we are only going for a two two constants into this. So here you can start with an a1 plus a2x something x square, and we can substitute. We will get a1 value. Now we'll take an only one derivative for this. Same fashion we can go on doing it, and then after that you can observe this also gives an a better result, because here we need to only calculate only one single constant. In previous case we are calculating two constants, so we'll get on a results. A2 is equal to this. Now I can substitute this all and determine the stresses, displacement field, and all this. Okay, so now we can compare this three cases. If you compare it, first case shows an exact horizontal variation. Second case shows on a dotted variation of the stress. Third case shows on a one more. And fourth is what are the last case gives in a better results than any other case. That is what you can see it here. Because here at this end area is large, my stress should be less. Here area is less, so my should be more. That is what you can observe it physically, how it does. And here you can just compare with an exact solution. So here it is in a stress at exact way, it comes to be a 0.025. But here, if you assume that this displacement field, here you will get a stress value 0. Then here, by using this polynomial, you will get a 0.0339. Here we'll get again 0.333 something like this. Okay, so there is one more example we'll take, and we'll move towards. I will keep this example. You need to work out on your own. So I will not solve on the board here. But you need to just go through this example, and you need to submit few more example assignments also. So this is what on one assignment you need to solve by Galerkin's method. This is what on a Galerkin's method you can use it, or also you can use an account point collocation method and compare the results, both results, compare these results. So these are the few examples I put it. This is one example, that is what in the previous one. This is a second example, same. Then third example, then this is my example. These are the differential equations to be solved. This differential equation may not be only for stress calculations or temperature calculation. That may be taking any care, any kind of things. And this is what typically equation which is determined for stress calculation. This is having a fourth order differential equation. This also to be solved. Okay. So when we are going to deal with a weak formulation, we are started with a differential equation. That is maybe in a second order differential equation d2x square. So when we are having in a second order differential equation, we need at least polynomial should be a second order. That is what in a basically requirement. So this should be second, this should be assumed polynomial should have a second order polynomial. So if I am on a fourth order polynomial, that is d raised to 4 or something, so my polynomial is a fourth order, and my differential equation is a fourth order. My polynomial also should have a fourth order. So as I am going for a second order polynomial, what is going to happen? I am having three constants. Okay. Here I'm having five constants, one more, one constant, zero something. So that's what these constants we need to determine it. When we are going to determine this, we are assuming in a high order, means that is the second order. If I assume on a third order polynomial, there is no problem, we can solve it. But we are spending more time in terms of a computation. So that is what when basically a limitation in all the forms, that is a weighted residual form, and that's what it is called as in a weak form. So we'll now look at the technique by which we can reduce that requirement of second order to the first order. So that is what we are going to understand what is there in the strong form. This is what it is called as a strong form. Well, these are the strong forms. These all called as a strong form. Okay. These strong form is always efficient, and there may not be a smooth solution for a particular problem. We have seen some of the problems are not getting in a perfect result or kind of things that is going to happen at. But in case of complexity also it is very difficult to take care of it. So when that is what a basically limitation for this all strong form. So that's what we have to do. We have to now convert that strong form into the weak form. Strong form means we are taking a higher order polynomial, and weak form we are taking a polynomial with a lower order. That's what it is called as a weak form. So one of the this is what basically typically used for integral, weak integral, and strong form. So in this case, we have started with a weighted residual statement, that is WR dx something. So this is what on a weak, that is what on a weighted residual form. This weighted residual form, if I integrate once, okay, integrates, and if my derivative is something d2u by dx square something, going to happen that will get reduced by once, that may be under du by dx, and requirement in the particular solution will get reduced. That is what it is weakening the requirement of u, that is the requirement on polynomial will reduce, and that is the reason it is called as a weak form. But if you are not integrating and directly using as it is and solving it, then it needs an u should be at least second order if my differential equation is a second order. So that's what this is most important point in all FEA stuffs. And this is the most critical part. Most of the time we'll not understand quite easily. And once we understood this, what is to be done? This weak form to be applied on the discretization purpose. It will take care of the continuity into the equations. It will take care of the boundary conditions also. All these things it is going to take care. That's the reason we are going to look at it. So we'll just look at one simple example, bar with an uniformly applied load, that is Q0. So how to convert that weak form? This is what in a differential equation we got. And this differential equation is in a second order. When we are going to solve this differential equation, we need an assumed polynomial should be of at least second order. So that is what on a basically requirement, and that's the reason it is called as in a strong form. Okay, we can see in a, as it is the second order, we should have two boundary conditions. This is one boundary condition. This is my second boundary conditions. So we'll start with a weighted residual form. This is what in a weighted residual form, WRD into d omega is equal to 0, and for W are different values and kind of things. So this equation, this RD is nothing but a domain residual, which will be brought from your differential equation, and that is what it is to be this is to be substituted into equation, and we got it, this equation. So now here in previous case we are not integrated. When we have integrated, we are taking in a function u is equal to a0 plus a1x plus a2x square, substituting into this and taking an integration. That is what we are doing it. Instead of substituting here at this location, you just stop here substituting and take an integration first. So that is what in a card, that is what the way we need to first of all work out the integration. In this integration, you can observe this is what in a W, and e to u by dx square is my one part of in a differential equation. Second part is what are the W into q x is equal to 0. So when we are going to integrate, W is also function of x, U is also function of x. So we have two functions when they are multiplying to each other. Okay, so this du and w are two functions. When we are multiplying each other, we need to use an integration. When we are going to integrate such functions, we have to apply an integration by part formula. And this integration by part formula means we are integrating two functions which are multiplied with each other. So that's the reason. Here, this is what the formula for it. If my u is here, this is a du by dx. Here, dv is considered to be du by dx. Okay. Then here, I can now substitute uv, and this is what the formula you can see it. So which we have studied in all mathematical subjects. Here, u is assumed to be a wx. Here it is a wx. V is assumed to be a du by dx, means dv will become ae into d2u by dx square. Understand? That's what it here. V is assumed to be a du by dx. So now you can substitute into this, and you can now get an integration of it. So now here, instead of d2u by dx square, we are substituting ae du by dx, and we are applying integration by part formula. So here 0 to L is in one part of an integration. After integration, here again rest of the integration, that is multiplying this, and then we got one equation here. So if you observe or simplify this equation to this level, what you can observe it. Here we got this, we can substitute L and 0 here, and we got this. These are called as prescribed natural boundary conditions. So this is one part, and here most importantly you can observe here requirement of U was first order and W is also first order. Okay, but if you look into the W into this equation, in this equation, here requirement is in a first order, here it is in a requirement is in a second order. So that is what in a way we have reduced the requirement of u by one part, and we have increased the requirement of w by one. That is what we have done it. Here derivative of w you can observe it. So sorry, here you can see in a w is there. Here one derivative is reduced. So that's what requirement on both the function is now coming to the same. And initially your requirement on weight function was lower. Here it is an higher. That is what it is made to be the same on both the functions. That is the what it is called as a weak formulation. This is what a weak formulation. Along with this weak formulation, one more advantage we can get it. We need not to think of to applying the boundary conditions, because on left side of this particular part of the entire equation, you can observe there is something W of L, PL, where we most of the time at x equal to 0, at x equal to L, we are determining W values. So these values are already there in the function. We need not to worry about it at all. It should satisfy something, and directly you can use that function and we can start using it. That is what it is called as prescribed boundary conditions, prescribed natural boundary conditions, and another one is essential boundary conditions. So why there are two different names? The essential means if I am taking in a bar, applying the load at this. Essential means it's geometrically, it should, this part should be 0. At x equal to 0, my u is 0. Natural boundary condition means I'm going to apply, that is a external force will be also taken care. This is what an essential, and this is what an natural boundary conditions. So these both will be directly applicable into the function, and we need not to worry about it. That is what an advantage we can get it. That's the reason weak formulation is most important in most of the cases. Okay, so once again I will revise it so that you people can understand it. Okay, so we'll start with this. Once again, we'll start with a simple differential equation. This is what in a differential equation. Then these are the two boundary conditions. When you're going to solve this differential equation, my u requirement should be in a second order polynomial. U requirement is second order polynomial. Okay, and that is what in a first. That is basically a requirement for it. Okay, then we started with a weighted residual form. This is weight function, this is domain residual. You can substitute into this. Here the requirement in this weighted residual form, on W my requirement is at least first order function. Here my requirement is a second order function. Understand? So there are two different requirement. On weight function, my requirement of order is less. On my field function, that is U, requirement is in the second order, that is a higher order. So we want to make both the things same. So in this case, what is to be done? You can now simplify it. You can bring all this stuff into one int. You can integrate it. So this is a function of x. This is also a function of x. You can take on one side. This is what these are two multiplications. You're going to do it. So that's what we have to use an integration by part formula. And this is what a formula for integration by part u, v, alpha, beta, and all this you can substitute. So here u is nothing but your wx, v is your this, and dv will become, that is a d2u by dx square. That's what. Okay. So this is what on a dv. It is what. Sorry. Here it is a. You can substitute. And now, once you substitute all, you will observe one thing into this. Here it is the requirement has reduced after substituting this. So this part will give me a certain boundary conditions directly applied into the equation. This is representing some boundary conditions. These are representing some boundary conditions. And here in this function, in this part of the equation, here you can see du by dx requirement is v part. Here by dx requirement. Okay, so here in previous case requirement was on a second order for u. Here it is the first order. It was made same on both the end, and that's what we can directly see this. This is one part as you can apply axial load directly applied at the end. You can apply it at this. What way you can just look at here. That's what it is called as an essential boundary conditions, and this is what are the natural boundary conditions. And that way we got a smoothness in the requirement. We have reduced, weakened out the requirement, and that's what it is called as a weak formulation. In this weak formulation, you can just start with this. So we got 0 to L and something. Then rest of the procedure is the same which we applied it. We can directly use now Galerkin's approach or any other approach to start with, and you can solve it. So here u of x among the smooth function, okay, smooth function such that this is what the function integration by parts lead to an symmetric form, that is u and w. So we got a same derivative for u as well as w, and that will give a symmetric stiffness matrix. This will lead to an asymmetric stiffness matrix. Once we got an asymmetric stiffness matrix, we can use that symmetry for faster calculations kind of things. We will discuss that part. And weak statement is an equivalent to a strong form, that is what. And that otherwise other words you can say, not only if u of x satisfies the strong form, okay, but also satisfies the weak form also, then it also also the solution of the strong form of entire problem. Smoothness in U and W is needed for integrals in the weak form exist. And that is what the same requirement for W and U. You can have the same functions on both the sides. That is what you can play with it. Now we'll start with a solution of it. So I will now start with a polynomial, that is c1x plus c2x square. I can start. So minimum requirement is x, but we have assumed a higher order polynomial. There is no problem. We can go for any time higher order polynomial, but minimum it is required is first order. Now we can substitute here. We want to determine two constants c1 and c2. That's what we need to have a two weight functions w and w2, and these should be satisfying boundary conditions. At x equal to 0, these two functions should satisfy 0 0. W2 also it is satisfying, w1 is also satisfying all this. Now you can substitute this, what are these parameters or this w1 u1, derivative of weight function, derivative of your normal u, and into this, and we'll get an equation like this. So after integral, we'll get a final equation in this fashion. We got two functions, two functions. There is a w1 and this is w2. Because we have assumed two weight functions, reason is that we have to determine two constants here, c1 and c2. So we got in a first equation here, and this is my second equation. And now we can solve these two equations simultaneously. And we got one is the C1 value here, and second is my C2 value here. And now you can substitute into final solution, that is u is equal to that is c1x plus c2x square. So here you can substitute c1, c2 here, and we'll get in a final solution here. And here it is an exact solution. We can compare these two solutions. You will find in a better results and better approximation you can get it by using this technique, and that is what it is called as a weak formulation. Okay. If you have any questions, you can ask me the question now. Avdut, any questions? Anybody is there? Any doubt or any questions? Do you have any questions?